All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review and the continuation of our BCBA Practice Exam series, where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. This is Exam 7. As always, welcome. If you're new to the channel, if you're returning, please subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout-out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. After exhausting all her other options, a behavior analyst decides to implement a response cost punishment procedure where a client loses 4 tokens each time the client engages in maladaptive behavior while at the same time using differential reinforcement. This punishment procedure appears to have a strong emotional impact on the client, but the intervention is working. What can the analyst use to determine if the response cost is necessary to this treatment package? Question is asking about the necessity of this response cost procedure. As we know, response cost is a punishment procedure where we are taking away something as a result of a target behavior. And punishment can lead to emotional responses, it can lead to aggression. And in this case, what do we know about how the punishment is affecting our client? Well, the question says the punishment is having a strong emotional impact on the client. However, the intervention is working. What do we know about the intervention? Well, we know the analyst has a response cost going, but also is using differential reinforcement. So we've got 2 interventions going at the same time. We've got a response cost procedure where the client is losing tokens, and we're also using differential reinforcement. So as a package, as a whole, we know the intervention is working. So at this point, the analyst wants to determine, okay, I have a working treatment package. Do I need this punishment procedure, which is causing issues for the client? How could the analyst determine if the response cost is absolutely necessary to the treatment package? A comparative analysis. So remember the difference between a comparative and a component analysis. With the comparative analysis, you're comparing interventions that aren't part of the same treatment package. With a component analysis, you're taking a treatment package and comparing the interventions with inside that package. So that's one of the key differentiators between a comparative analysis and a component analysis. Since we know this is a treatment package and we're going to be comparing the 2 interventions inside that package, we would be using a component analysis, because a component analysis is going to analyze each one of these interventions separately to see which one's necessary, which one's sufficient. With a parametric analysis, this is when you take a single intervention and you determine the dosage. How much of it or how little of it do we need? We're not looking at how much or how little. We're looking at, is the intervention even necessary? And then, of course, a functional analysis is not relevant here. We're not looking at the behavior. We're looking at the interventions. So if the analyst wants to determine if this response cost is necessary in the treatment package, they would use a component analysis and look at both the response cost and the differential reinforcement procedure. Jordy, a behavior analyst, receives a call one day from someone claiming to be with Child Protective Services. This person requests all records that Jordy has for a certain client and tells Jordy this is required by a court order. What should Jordy do? All right, so we have a record question, a privacy question, a consent question. And this is a more challenging question because there's really only one thing that's important here. Because we know Jordy, who's a behavior analyst, has gotten a call saying that he has to share records because of a court order. Now, what do we know about privacy? What do we know about records? We know that consent must be obtained. People have to have consent to get records, with the exception if required by law or court order. If Jordy is required by court order to share records, Jordy doesn't have a choice. So what should Jordy do? What's the important part about this information? A, verify that the caller has consent to obtain the records and only share if they do. It's irrelevant if the caller has consent. Think about if this was a custody dispute between a mom and a dad. What if the mom gets consent and the dad doesn't? It's irrelevant because all that matters is that court order. B, verify that the court order is real and only share the records if it is. That's what we're concerned with. Is that court order real? If it is, Jordy has to share the records. He doesn't have a choice. C, verify with all possible stakeholders that the records should be shared. Now, Verify with all possible stakeholders. Think about all the possible stakeholders a client could have. We could have parents, we could have grandparents, we could have teachers, we could have other therapists. It's just not feasible to go to every single stakeholder and ask, well, should these records be shared? In addition, again, it's irrelevant. All that matters in this case is that court order. And then D, verify that the person is actually from Child Protective Services and share if they are. Well, they might be from Child Protective Services, but without a court order, that doesn't make a difference. What matters in this question is the idea that there's a court order requiring Jordy to give the records. Nothing else matters after that. If the law or the court says the records must be shared, Jordy has no choice. He has to share the records. Notice that we are going through each answer choice and explaining why are the wrong answers wrong, not only why the right answer is right. That's what you need to do for every single question, even on exam day. Go through each answer choice and understand why am I not picking this, and then why am I picking this? Terry wants to figure out a way to encourage her son to behave better at school. She reads in a book that she should establish a contingency which will provide a reward on completion. How might Terry establish a reinforcement contingency with her son? Pretty straightforward question here. A pretty simple contingency question. What's a contingency? A contingency is an if-then statement, a first-then statement, where we are setting up the opportunity for someone to receive a consequence based on a behavior. For example, if you do your homework, then you can go play. First you eat your broccoli, then you get your dessert. Those are basic contingencies. We use contingencies all the time. The little wrinkle here is we want a reinforcement contingency. And you want to be careful about this on your exam where easy questions might have a small wrinkle, which is testing that you're reading carefully, right? Because we can set up punishment contingencies too, but we want a reinforcement contingency. And Terry wants to use a contingency that will provide a reward. So how will Terry do that? A, tell her son that if he misbehaves in school today, then he will be put into timeout all weekend. Okay, A is a good example of why it's important to read carefully. A looks like a punishment contingency. Timeout's a punishment procedure. If you misbehave, then I put you in timeout. If you misbehave, then I punish you. This is a contingency, but we need a reinforcement contingency. Again, how do you make an easy question slightly more difficult? You add a little wrinkle, and that's our wrinkle. B, tell her son that he should behave in school today after providing her son with his favorite action figure. What's wrong with B? Well, this is more of a bribe. And what's the difference? Well, with the bribe, the consequence is provided before the behavior is done. Terry's son gets the action figure before behaving in school. It doesn't work like that. He needs to behave first and then get the action figure. That's how a contingency operates. So C, tell her son that she will buy him a toy after school if the teacher says he behaved all day. That's our contingency. If the teacher says you behaved all day, then I will buy you a toy. You will get a reward. This is our reinforcement contingency. And then D, if her son did not behave all day, she should deny any request for toys and ignore problematic behavior. Now, this isn't really establishing a reward contingency for her son. This looks almost like an extinction contingency, but we need a reward reinforcement contingency. So the best answer here is going to be C. Tell her son that she will buy him a toy after school if the teacher says he behaved all day. Grant is taking vocal lessons and is advancing quickly. Grant has learned all the songs from Wicked and can sing them flawlessly, except for the fact that he sings them too quickly. What approach might Grant's coach take to fix this issue? Okay, another pretty straightforward question. When you get straightforward questions on the exam, we don't overthink them. We don't argue with them. Trust your prep, pick the best answer. Let's move on. So how is Grant's coach going to fix the issue? Well, what's the issue? Notice how we attack the question, right? We start asking ourselves question. Okay, we know the question wants to know, how does Grant fix the issue? All right, well, what is the issue? What do we know? We know Grant is taking vocal lessons. He's advancing quickly. He knows all these songs, except he sings them too quickly. And there is our issue. The magnitude, right? The speed of the song is too quick. So how can Grant's coach fix that? Well, if we look at A and B, shape the behavior between topographies and shape the behavior within topographies. What is the difference? When we shape between, that is what we typically think about in shaping, right? where we are shaping new responses, we're creating new response classes, and we're changing the form of the behavior. When we shape within, we're not changing the form, we're just changing the magnitude of that behavior. And so we don't need to change Grant's form necessarily because he knows all the songs flawlessly. We need to change some aspect of it, which he sings them too quickly. We have to shape within that topography to change the speed of that song. What about C? Use a positive practice overcorrection procedure. Well, with positive practice, he was going to want Grant to sing them correctly, which is okay, right? Because with the positive practice, we're doing the right behavior over and over and over again, except that's punishment. And so, what is better than starting with punishment? We'll just shape within topographies using differential reinforcement. We're looking for the best answer, right? And then D, conduct a preference assessment for Grant. That's not going to fix the issue of singing too quickly. So, really, our only options are shaping within topographies or using positive practice. One's punishment, one isn't. We always are going to start with the one that is not punishment, which is shaping the behavior within topographies. A behavior analyst who is licensed and competent in only applied behavior analysis learns about a speech intervention that is designed using trauma-based psychology and not behavior analysis. The intervention is said to be much more effective than the analyst's current intervention, which uses only shaping. What intervention should the analyst pick? All right, interesting. Let's think about this, right? We're looking at an intervention question and deciding what intervention to use. We have an analyst who is licensed and competent in ABA, and they have a speech intervention using trauma-based psychology. Now stop there and think, and not behavior analysis. Stop there and think, what's the problem with that? Well, immediately it violates one of our dimensions, right? It's not conceptually systematic. We have to be conceptually systematic in our designs, especially if the behavior analyst is not licensed and competent in this other type of psychology. That's a big issue. Now, the intervention is said to be much more effective than the current intervention, but what intervention should the analyst pick? A, the analyst should always pick the more effective intervention. That's just not true, right? If we have a punishment procedure that's more effective than reinforcement, that doesn't necessarily mean we pick punishment. Think about our last question. We can shape or we can punish. Well, we're going to try shaping first. B, the analyst should pick the trauma-based intervention but still use shaping. The analyst should not use this trauma-based intervention. They're not licensed, they're not competent, and it is not conceptually systematic. That's a big problem. C, the analyst should only use a shaping intervention. Yes, that's what we're looking for. We have to be conceptually systematic, right? Regardless of what the intervention might do or what it might prove. If you're not competent, if you're not licensed, and if it's not conceptually systematic, we cannot use it in our ABA treatments. And then negative punishment. Well, negative punishment makes no sense in the context of this question. So that's not even an idea here, right? If it's between a non-conceptually systematic intervention and a conceptually systematic intervention, we're going to go with the conceptually systematic intervention. All right, thank you for watching. Be sure to check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. Be sure to subscribe for all of our updates. We also have RBT materials available, so be sure to spread the word about those. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.